Hey everyone, I just wanted to do a quick little video. Hopefully this one will be like 15 minutes, but this one is going to be about like capitalism. I think everybody who's been watching my channel already knows that I'm really against Marxism. I see Marxism as dangerous. I think that if the the ramifications of Marxism were really brought to were really actually taught in schools today, uh, people would be a lot more turned off to it. But it's kind of in vogue. Um, it's taught in schools and everything. So I recently went on to my old college campus and was speaking with some students there. Sorry about that. Forgot to silence my phone. My bad. And my text message alert is like it. Sometimes I think aliens are about to come abduct me because it's so loud. Like that almost scared me hearing that noise. It might have scared you too on the other end. But anyways, so I was going up to people and just talking to people and trying to get a sense of where people were, and it seemed like a lot of the people in college were actually thought that capitalism was more evil than Marxism. And so I just kind of want, like I said with my videos, my format is not really knowing exactly where I'm going to go with these topics. And I like that. And I know that if I had spent a lot of time preparing, it might be more robotic. Some people do a lot better that way, but I like to just kind of free flow. I actually used to be a rapper, a freestyle rapper, so I always liked the freestyle flow. So I'm doing that with my videos. I'm not a rapper anymore, but anyways, so I'm gonna rap about capitalism, I guess, and hopefully um, present like a couple things that I don't want to discredit, like the beefs with capitalism, but um, yeah, I think there's a lot of positive things about capitalism that are overlooked, and there are negative things about it as well. So anyways, like I think it was just an eye opener for me to walk on a college campus and to see people who believed that capitalism was worse than communism or Marxism. And I mean, I wasn't really surprised because I was kind of under that impression too. And I think that's just kind of what's been beat into people's minds, and that like Marxism, it kind of it has an appeal to our virtuosity, right? If we support Marxism, that means we support the downtrodden and the oppressed. Uh, so people who are, and then if you support capitalism, retrospectively, it seems like you're supporting the rich and the wealthy. And so it seems like, I think in a very simplistic way, and I don't think that this is actually true, that it's almost more charitable to be a Marxist because then you're on the side of the proletariat. Whereas if you're a capitalist, you kind of have the picture drawn of you that you are an oppressor, right? Which we saw with one of my recent videos. I'm actually including a lot of that in my next upcoming book, Big American Problems. And also just wanted to throw out this book. This is out. You can buy it now. If you just Google it, The Best Guess. It goes through a bunch of different evidences for Christianity, and it hasn't sold a bunch, but I was kind of, it's self-published, and but I still think that it's a good book, and I'm excited for people to read it. So give it a chance and buy it, and you can get it on ebook or hardback or paperback. I would suggest paperback. I like having a physical book, and a paperback is the cheaper option as well. So, and it would just really bless me and honor me to know that people that I might not even know are reading my book and either liking or disliking it. So anyways, back to the topic at hand. So I just want to approach this topic from my own understanding of what capitalism was before I kind of became more in support of capitalism. And I do want to also, in this discussion, talk about what I think the Bible has to say about it, because I think that that's important as well. So before, what I thought about with capitalism was that it was one of the engines that was destroying the world. And I think that there is reasonable basis to think that. But basically, that capitalism was what, especially as an environmental thinker, I was always looking at the world in terms of like people exploiting the world and exploiting other people. And so I think that idea of exploitation comes through when we talk about capitalism, and that's why it sometimes can be so heated, because if you do start explaining the benefits of capitalism, then you are seen as somebody who is on the side of people who support exploitation. But I do think that, just like so many other things that we've looked at, that is also a caricature of what capitalism really is. Because I think that capitalism in its organic form would be free trade. Whereas, and I just kind of want people to challenge themselves in thinking about what would the alternative to capitalism be, like, to free trade. I mean, and to recognize also that capitalism is an ancient thing, and the idea of private property, because I think that's one of the things. It's like, like I said, what is the alternative? Well, the alternative is I don't know exactly, but maybe a collectivization or communism. And I think that alternative is dangerous. So, because then you start destroying private property. So I've talked to people who said that, like, people, like the indigenous people in America didn't really have any notion of private property, and that private property is kind of just something that colonialists came up with, which just isn't true. I mean, people always had property ever since the dawn of civilization. And if you really challenge people who disagree with private property, which was one of the things that Marxism disagreed with, to say like, hey, okay, so can I just come into your house and just crawl into your bed and sleep in your bed next to you? And they'd be like, well, maybe, sure, but really, like, that's just ridiculous, right? No, because you own the bed. And in Christianity, I actually do believe that the things that I own aren't actually mine, but they are God's. But at the same time, like, I think that all throughout the Bible as well, it shows us that it shows that people had possessions and they traded things. They had ownership of land, and they made deals. So there were trade and barter systems, and then there was money. And so money is not, I think money is not an evil thing in itself, but it can be used to great evils. Money is ancient; it's not anything new, and so I think that runs into problems when you really, like, you just say, okay, you don't like capitalism, all right, well, what's the better alternative? And then they'll say, like, well, socialism, and but socialism really is just a repackaged form of communism and Marxism, where and if you really think about what socialism is, it would have to be something that is appropriated by a top-down control. So I think that free market capitalism is what has led to the greatest height of human prosperity. In America, it's led us to be the richest nation in the world, and not only just like for the rich, but for the middle class, and pulling people out of poverty. So, and obviously, it's not a perfect system, but I do think that to some degree it's the best we have. So anyways, like I said, what is the alternative to capitalism? And I think that when you really start pushing what that might be, you start running into real problems when they say, well, I just think this whole like ownership idea is is just a part of Western colonialist capitalism and exploit a system of exploitation. And it's like nobody actually would ever follow that through to consistency, because if they're on their cell phone while they're telling me that, and I just take their cell phone out of their hand and just say, well, this is mine now because technically there's no such thing as ownership, so I have equal amount of rights to your cell phone as you do. So and then that also goes to the Bible, you shall not steal. Well, steal what? If there's no such thing as ownership, then there would be never be anything like stealing. So I think that realistically, with common sense, people know that there is such thing as ownership. And then when you start really pulling out ownership as a reality, you start running into extreme amounts of evil in societies historically that have happened as a result of this idea that there is no such thing as private property. So with capitalism, again, I would say that when I was a Marxist, and when I would say I was a Marxist who didn't have like a very great understanding of Marxism, but like I knew it better than most, I would say. But when I was a Marxist, I kind of felt like when I was working at my job that I was being exploited, that I was like under a system of slave labor in a sense, and that the boss that I had was kind of exploiting me. And so I had this kind of resentment for people who were above me economically. And I do think that that greed and envy are problems, and they're things that drive the capitalist system more towards destructive end. But anyways, when I was a Marxist, when I would work these various jobs, I would start hating my job and really resenting my job, and resenting that I had to be there, and I thought myself above that job. And then I also like kind of fell for the ploy of the owner, like that I deserve just as much as the owner. But once you really start thinking about it, you realize that owners and people who have started the business that they are running, sorry, I'm just going to move this a little closer, they put a lot more stake in it than the person. Like if there's an owner of a restaurant and a person who's bussing tables, well, that day that person who's bussing tables might be working harder, but ultimately like the owner who started the business put a lot more risk into the business. He started the business, he put his life and soul into the business, whereas the busser just maybe started last week, he's been working hard for a couple of days. But should he be like splitting the wages with the owner, especially when the owner has more expenses? And so I think that risk is something, the risk and the hard work that and the things that the owner put at stake into their business is one reason why they deserve what they earn. Now there can be owners and bosses who pay their sorry, one sec. Yeah, there are bosses. Sorry, there are bosses that pay their owners like, or bosses that pay their workers unfair wages, right? And I think that is a sin. And when work owners are exploiting people, that is sinful. And so that leads me to the last point that I want to make, and then I'm going to cut this off so it's a little shorter video. But that's just the idea of transactionary systems. So like if I am the busser, let's use the busser analogy because I have bus tables. If I am a busser, then I have actually signed on to work that job. I agreed to work with dirty plates and pick up gross napkins and clean bathrooms for X amount per hour. And so do I really have the right to complain that I'm not getting paid enough? Of course, I can make the case to the owner that, hey, look, I'm really not getting paid enough here for the job I'm doing. I think I'm doing a better job than you're paying me for. And then the owner can say yes or no. He can agree or he can say no. But it's not exploitation if it's a mutual agreement. So that's another problem. But I do think that, I'm over 15 minutes now, but I wanted to kind of get into some of the negative aspects of capitalism, which I think, if I really had to say what those are, I think that it's driving monopolies, driving other businesses down, and hurting people intentionally. And when greed and corruption get involved, those are where the system fails, and those are why people oftentimes rightly have beef with capitalism. So those are my thoughts on capitalism. Hope you enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and have a great day. Bye.